This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, hello everyone, and a very special warm welcome for the school safari, and that is out to Bridges, Canada, who are on their summer camp and on all the different locations of Milton, Oakville, Burlington and Georgetown. We are coming to you live from the greater Kruger National Park in South Africa. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and on the camera I've got Craig with me today. How's it, Craig? And hello to all of you. Now we're out on foot here in the Kruger National Park, and what you were watching there was some impala antelope, and they're just keeping their distance from us because they can be a little bit scared of us, a little bit more than they would be if we were on a vehicle, because they know from evolution that that animal on two legs is very dangerous, so they're just keeping their distance from us. But there is a healthy distance now, so they seem to have relaxed a little bit. And please don't forget to send us your questions through your teachers, because we'd love to know what you would like to know, and we'll do our best to answer your questions out in full. Now, I'm not the only one that's out today. James is out on vehicle, and he's going to be doing his best to get up and close and personal with some of all these big animals we have out here. And Sydney's also out in a Jeep as well, so he'll be coming on a little bit later too. Now, my idea this afternoon is to try and see if we can find some leopards, because we heard one calling a little bit after breakfast, so that was just a few hours ago. So we're going to try and take the tracks and see if we can find that leopard. But I'm not promising anything, because this is not a zoo, and we're out here in the wild, and well, it's not as easy as it would be in the zoo, because these animals move around and they are free. So there you saw some impala, and like I said, James, who's out on the Jeep as well, he's also found the same.
I have found the same, and it's marvellous to have you all here with us from the Bridges camp in Canada. Milton, Oakville, Burlington, Georgetown. Have got no idea where any of those places are, but I hope that the summer is a welcome relief there in Canada. I have cousins who live in Canada, around Toronto I think is where they are, and well, they complain bitterly about how cold it is in the winter, and that you have a very long winter as well. My name is James Hendry. I have got Sébastien Rombi, the greatest French Gabonese Air Force pilot in history, on camera today. You don't need to worry about his title. It is, of course, here, midwinter. As you can see, it's freezing cold. Brrr. I'm obviously being what we call facetious. It's a delicious 24 degrees, if you can believe it, here in midwinter in South Africa. It's not like this all over the country, but in the lowlands here, the eastern lowlands, where we have the great Kruger National Park, it's beautiful. There we have some impala, and please do talk to us, ask us any questions you like. We'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you about Africa, about the animals we're seeing, or about conservation in general. Zoe, the rarest animals in Africa are the rarest mammals in Africa are probably something called the simian wolf, which is also the most endangered carnivore in Africa. And the simian wolf lives in Ethiopia, in the highlands of Ethiopia, where it subsists or survives by scavenging and probably hunting the odd small antelope. I'm just thinking if there might be rarer animals, because remember, of course, that frogs and insects and arachnids are also animals, and we get very rare insects such as the Brenton blue, which is a very special butterfly only found in one part of South Africa. We get something called a green barbet, which is only found in one forest in South Africa. So there are lots of rare animals. I would say the rarest mammal is probably the simian wolf, but there might be some, or you know what, it might actually be something like the okapi, which is a relative of the giraffe that lives in the forests of the Congo. Well, and Julia, you're looking at the most common antelope in this particular part of the world. That's the most common antelope or common mammal that we get here in southern Africa. In eastern Africa, Kenyan and Tanzanian wildlands, the most common animal is probably the wildebeest, where millions migrate every year between Tanzania and Kenya. So those are probably the most common ones in that part of the world. The most common animal in all of Africa is most likely a bird called the red-billed quail. That's the most common species, I suspect. Of course, if you are not looking at species, but just groups of animals, well, then the termites are probably the most common antelope. Oh, no, they're not antelope at all, are they? The most common animal that you will get out here in southern Africa. So that's what's going on over here. We're going to try and find you a leopard at some stage this afternoon. We're going to do our very best. In the meantime, let's head back across to... Back across to Ralph, who seems to have found something exciting.
Well, it's always exciting, isn't it, when we're out on foot and trying to find or get closer to an animal, and it's sometimes a little bit easier to find those animals. Remember what I said, it can be a little bit more difficult to get close to, especially antelope on foot, but sometimes we can find the predators a lot easier because we're able to take the tracks and follow them into where we can locate them. And if they've maybe caught something that they're trying to eat, or they've climbed up in a tree, something like that, then it might be easier for us to get in closer than it would be for the guys out on the vehicle. So that's what we're doing at the moment. We're just circling around from where we were at camp, and then we're going to try our best and see if we can get nice and close. Now, the guy in front there, he's our game scout, and he's also helping me look for the tracks. Now, Mitchell, lots of animals will use different ways to keep cool in the heat. If you look at elephants, they've got those very big ear flaps. You know, my ear flaps aren't very big at all. Well, some people might say they're huge. But in comparison to an elephant, he's got those big ears. And what he does is he's got a lot of blood running through those ears, and he wafts them around like this. And in so doing, there's a lot of air passed over those ears. And that's how he keeps cool. But if you had to look like a leopard or a lion, very similar to your little cat or your dog at home, they don't sweat. They open their mouth and they run cool air over their tongue. So they go... a lot of panting, and you'll see it with your dog and your cat at home, and also a lot of fluid comes out from the tongue, and that helps them to keep cool. So a lot of animals don't sweat, they use their mouths, and they use different ways we call it thermoregulating. Say that, thermoregulating. That's keeping your body temperature nice at the exact right temperature that you need to be able to survive nicely. Okay, so not too hot, not too cold. And at the moment today, it's pretty much like that. It's not too hot or too cold. Now, Sarah, we get most of our rainfall in the summer months, so that would be from September till about May. And that's obviously different to the northern hemisphere, where your summer months, it's different all over the world, but generally in your summer months is where you would get your rainfall around different countries in the world. However, in our country, in South Africa, we do have a place where we have winter rainfall, and that's in the Western Cape, around Cape Town. Have any of you heard of that very famous city of ours? We call it the Mother City, right at the tip of Africa. Cape Town, that's one of the only places in Africa that gets winter rainfall, which is quite different to the rest of us here. So in winter, for us, it's very dry. You can see how brown the grass is here. There hasn't been any rain at all, maybe a little bit of a sprinkle when we get a small cold front or whatever. Like this morning, there was lots of fog around, and we had a safari this morning which was very cold. It is winter, but it was also quite wet, just because of that fog that we had. But this is generally what the grass looks like in winter for us. And in summer, after we get some rains, in September, more or less, all of this will change color completely and start to be a more greeny color, and a lot more nutritious for the animals as well. They'll be able to feed on this grass and find a lot more nutrients from it too. So a very, very big change that we do have from summer to winter. And well, we just keep moving through here, and you can actually smell the dust. Now, Scott, I would say that rhinos aren't the most dangerous animal. Black rhinos, they can be dangerous. And when we speak of rhinos, when we're on foot, we make this symbol. If we want to be quiet, and we say that there's a rhino just in front, we go like this, and that means that there's a rhino just over there. But rhinos, not particularly dangerous. I would say the two that are the most dangerous would have to be an elephant and a buffalo. An elephant, because he's very intelligent and he's also huge. He's the biggest land mammal. They can be up to 6 to 7 tons, so massive animals that have the potential of being very dangerous. And buffalo, the reason why they're so dangerous is once they decide that you're bad news and they're going to charge at you, the only thing that's going to stop them is if you shoot them. So when buffalo charge you, generally what we do is we climb up a tree. And so if we see buffalo nearby, you can very often see us looking around for the closest tree. That one over there would definitely be a good one to get out of the way from a buffalo that wanted to knock us down and get rid of us. So those are the things. As we're walking through the bush here, I'm always thinking there's a nice tree that we would be able to get up and away from a buffalo or an elephant even, because that tree, an elephant would struggle to push that over. So, but generally, even though we're walking where there could be buffalo and elephants and lions and leopards, we are looking for them. We're not scared of them, but we do respect them. We have been in the bush for many, many years, and we understand the way that the animals will react towards us. So if we hear a little snort or maybe a branch breaking, we know that those sounds, the snort could mean that there's a buffalo or a rhino, and the branch breaking could mean that there's an elephant. If we hear something like a that's a leopard. That's a leopard, and that's what we heard earlier. So that's why we're actually going in this direction. Now, what does a lion sound like? A lion definitely does not go, Rah! It goes, right. So that's what a lion sounds like. I've had enough of making noises and animal noises. I'm going to go and try and find these animals. And while I'm doing that, let's head you off to James, who's next to a waterhole.
Oh, we are near a waterhole. We've got some very special little birds that just ran into this bush. You see them there? Oh, they got a bit of a fright. They're called crested francolins, very common little ground-dwelling birds here. Oh dear, all we've got there is a bush, which is absolutely hopeless. Okay, never mind. Let's carry on. We'll just go up around the corner here, see if there isn't something else there. We're going past some more impala, but we've already shown those to you. Let's try and find something else. Hello, Jack. Let's look at these young impala here. You say, how long does it take for their horns to grow? Well, Jack, those horns are probably, in fact, those are two very interesting impala, actually. Those horns are probably about 4 months old. I suspect those are the unusual bunch born in February. There are very few impala born in February, most of them born in early December. And so, well, you can see at 4 months old, they've got horns the length of pens, and you'll find that they are fully grown horns probably at about 3 years. They will get slightly bigger each year, but at about 3 years they look like that male that you're looking at there. It's very difficult from that age to find out if, how old they are. Up to about 3, you can tell from the size of their horns how old they are. Alrighty. Oh, he's just making a little grunting sound, trying to show how big and strong he is. Oh, Jack, you're a bit of an ornithologist, are you? You said we see many eagle owls in our safaris. There are 2 species of eagle owl that we get here. One is called the spotted eagle owl, and the other is called the giant eagle owl. We do see them from time to time. They're not very common, but we do see them every so often. I'll try and show you a picture. Let me just stop up here, because I think we might see a few different... Oh, there's actually a very interesting thing going on there. We've got some interesting antelope having a bit of a dance-off there. Now, I know many of you have probably been engaged in a dance-off from time to time. I hope it's not been as serious as the one you're seeing there. Those are 2 nyala. And what they're doing is basically having a fight. That's how nyala have a fight, or the precursor to a fight. They can actually have a very physical, nasty fight. But before they do that, they try and decide who's a better dancer. And if they can't decide who's a better dancer, then they will have a proper fight. So basically what they're doing there is trying to display for each other. And they move very slowly, of a sort of Tai Chi movement. I don't know if you do Tai Chi on your camps. I suspect probably not. But if you do, you'll know what I mean. And there's you can only see one there, but there's another one doing exactly the same thing, just to the right-hand side of that, through those thick bushes. And there you can see his hair. And this is what we call a dominance display. In other words, one of them trying to look more dominant than the other. It's something that you've seen with human beings on the playgrounds at school, I'm sure, where boys normally will strut about trying to show how big and strong they are without actually fighting with each other, and that's what's going on here. It's fairly typical male behavior for most mammals. So the next time you want to size yourself up against a potential rival on the playground or at the camps, well, I suggest you try this. It's a lot less violent than an actual fight. Isn't that amazing? Slow, balletic Tai Chi movements. Beckett, other animals, I'm trying to think of some other animals that might dance other than human beings. Human beings dance, of course. There are definitely many birds that dance. The bower birds of Australia and Papua New Guinea, they were one of the 2, I can't remember exactly where they live, they definitely dance. Birds of paradise of Papua New Guinea do interesting dances. In fact, there are quite a few birds around the world that do dances. There are those prairie grouse that dance in the United States. I think they're called prairie grouse. Snakes sometimes dance for each other. But these are, I think, the best dancing mammals. Very interesting. And look at how the fur is sticking up. Sarah, the females do not fight, and you'll find this with just about all mammals. Females don't fight very much. The noticeable exception, I suppose, would be the hyenas. Their females fight amongst each other quite a lot. The lions, they fight quite a lot amongst each other. In fact, the cats, generally, the females will fight with each other. But on the whole, female mammals are very well mannered with each other. It's the males that tend to be ill-mannered and filled with this desire to show off. We're a little bit like the antelope ourselves. Ooh, very interesting. Sounds like the bushwalk team is heading towards a very interesting sound.
Well, yes, everyone, we are heading towards a very interesting sound, and it sounds like a buffalo that is in trouble. And the only thing that it could be in trouble from is from a lion. But that's not what we're looking at here, because it's quite far away that we've heard that call. So we've sent the vehicles to go and investigate. But this that we're looking at here is a track that we are just trying to follow. You see, there's a toe there, there's a toe there, there's a toe there, and over there, and then there's a big back pad here with very clear 3 lobes over there, and that will indicate that it's one of our cats. And this, if I put my hand next to it just so that you can see how big it is, this is a track of a male leopard. So we're going to try and our best to see if we can find this leopard, because this is quite fresh. So it's after the fog that we had this morning, and like I said, only a couple of hours ago we heard a leopard calling. So we're going to continue on this track and keep walking and following it and see if we can find it. Now, Kaylin, a leopard will get its prey into the trees. What it does is initially it's going to grab an animal by its neck and kill it. Okay, they've got very, very long, sharp teeth in the front, and they'll use that to suffocate, get into the neck area here, and normally bite and close the windpipe off. So it's normally a very quick death for the animal. Then what it does is it'll drop it, it'll look around, and it will see where there's a nice big tree. That one is not ideal over there, but it would be in this particular area because there's nothing else really big around that has a nice fork in it. What he'll do then is he'll grab it maybe at the back of the neck here, okay, and then he picks it up and he'll walk like this. He'll have to, obviously, depending on how big the prey is, it's normally an impala, maybe a warthog, so it needs to be something that he can actually move with. And they've got very, very strong shoulders and a chest, and so then he'll walk with that and holding it, and when he gets to the tree, he'll put his claws into the tree, both his front legs and eventually then his back legs as well, with the claws sticking out, and then he'll use his back legs, and with that very strong chest and shoulders of his, he'll literally go like this, like a man that's climbing up a coconut tree. You know how they do that? And they jump and they put their hands like that. Some of them use a rope. I mean, if you've seen some of the lumberjacks and all of that, they use a rope on the other side of the branch. But leopards, they've got very strong arms and legs, shoulders and chest, as well as very, very well adapted claws and the neck to be able to hold that prey up. And then they'll go up and up and up, shimmy up the tree, and when they get high enough into the fork, they'll put that animal into the fork. And what does that do? That keeps it away from lions that will smell the blood. And they'll come in, hyenas as well, and so it just puts them into an excellent position to be away from the other predators, and none of the other predators can climb like a leopard can. So I'm hoping that maybe we get lucky enough and we might even be able to find this leopard with something that is killed. Now, Mitchell, leopards can run extremely fast. They can probably run at double the speed of Usain Bolt. So, Usain Bolt runs the 100 meters in, well, not quite double, just under double the speed of Usain Bolt. He runs it in about just under 10 seconds. So a leopard, he'll run it in about 5 to 6 seconds, 100 meters. So just think about that, eh? A cheetah, when he's at full speed, he'll run 100 meters in just over 3 seconds. When he's at full speed. Think about that. 1, 2, 3, and he's run 100 meters. Now that is really quick. So there's not a person alive that will come anywhere near to the speed that a leopard can run, a lion can run, or a cheetah can run. None of us can. In fact, us as humans, we're one of the slowest animals of all. Even a hippopotamus can run faster than Usain Bolt. Imagine that. You could be able to put a hippo in a race with Usain Bolt, and the hippo had to win. Well, he will. He will win. If we could do it, he would. And it would be incredible. So that's crazy, eh? Well, that's animals and the speed that they run. But I want to now speed up a little bit and see if we can actually find this leopard. But I know that James is out on vehicle, and I wonder if he's heading towards where that buffalo was.
Yes, it is. It's exactly what we're doing. We're driving quite fast towards the northern parts of the reserve, and we're hopefully going to come across, well, some sign of what made that distress call. Sounds like a buffalo making that distress call. I haven't heard it yet. Only the bushwalk heard it. Just going to listen to the radio. The radio seems to be going ballistic. Go ahead, Herbie. Herbert is our game scout, and I'm now hearing myself through the radio. You're not sitting on your radio, are you? No. There we go. Okay, sorted it out. We had a small radio malfunction. Sorry, Herbs, I thought you were calling me. Alright, so apparently sound of buffalo calling in this area here, and they're trying desperately to see if they can... Oh, there's a warthog running. Warthog running. Warthog little pig. Could easily be attacked by a leopard or a lion. We won't see him again. He'll be running at great speed. And maybe we'll be lucky and find some sign of lions fighting with buffalo. Hazel, yes, sometimes we get albino animals. It's not common, and it's more common to find what we call partial albinism, which means just patches of an animal will have no melanin in them. For those of you who don't know, an albino can happen to lots and lots of different kinds of animals, and basically means that there is no melanin in the skin. And so where obviously black people have got a lot of melanin, white people have a lot of melanin as well, just not as much as black people. The darker the animal is, the more melanin it has got, and the better it will be adapted. I'm just going to switch off and listen here. The better it'll be adapted to living in the sun. So in Africa, if you're lions growling, oh no, it's not lions at all. It is people.
No.
Oh, that's very interesting. All right, well, let's just keep driving down here. I suspect those are the human tracks that I'm seeing. I heard a little generator that's being used as a pump over there. Sorry about that. So let me get back to the discussion of the sun. So in Africa, to be albino as an animal, there's a drag mark here. That's of a tree probably being pulled across the road, as opposed to meat. No, this is definitely the drag mark, possibly of an animal being dragged that way. Drag mark is something obviously being pulled across the road. But we can't go that way. Let's just keep going up here. I'm getting obviously slightly confused because I'm talking about two things at the same time. Melanin, albinism. Not great if you live in a very sunny climate, and so very few animals out here, if they're born albinos, will survive. But if you live in not a very sunny climate, it doesn't really make much difference. I hope that's answered your question for you. I'm just going to watch the tracks here, and then we'll switch off and listen to see if we can hear signs of a buffalo in distress. Alright, well, Ralphie's also looking around this area, so let's go back to him and find out if he's had some luck.
Well, we are looking on the ground, but we're also looking up in the trees to see if there's any leopards. But here is a hornbill, and this is the cousin of Zazu that you would have seen in The Lion King. That is the yellow-billed hornbill, that is Zazu, but this is a red-billed hornbill. You can see his bill when he does look to the side. You can see the little red bill, and his bill is also quite a bit smaller than that of the yellow-billed hornbill, but they're very much the same as the yellow-billed hornbill in many ways, in fact in all ways, except for slightly different body shape and bill. But they eat all sorts of different things, from fruits and berries to even little baby tortoises. They'll pick them out of their shell, and they eat insects, termites and ants and little things like that too. But and they also come and raid our kitchen in our camp. So they eat all sorts, do the little hornbills, and they're quite characters. They are quite naughty, and they're always up to nonsense. And when they fly, like you saw there, they have quite a lazy flight, because they go 1, 2, and they glide. 1, 2, and they glide. Very much like you saw Zazu in The Lion King. So that's very interesting, hey? Well, I'm going to just head up here and actually have a look from this termite mound and see if we can get a view out. And maybe we'll be able to spot something here nearby. Now, Lisa, we're on 1,000 hectares on the property that we're on. So 1,000 hectares, I believe it's, what is that? It's 10 kilometers by 10 kilometers. That would be 1,000 hectares. But the Greater Kruger National Park is 2.2 million hectares. So that is pretty much the size of Israel. So have a look on the map and look at Israel, the size of Israel. It's pretty much the size of the Kruger National Park. Ow. And this is a knobthorn that has just now attacked me and caught me with these hooked thorns here. Ouch. Look at that. Yeah, that's right. Let's get up here and just see if we can see any leopards or any other animals here around. We use these termite mounds as a nice looking point as well. Now, John, leopards, they can live to, more or less a very old leopard would be about 15 to 18 years of age. So that's probably the oldest that you'd get. Some, the females, they can maybe live a little bit longer than the males, because the males do partake in a lot more fighting than the females. And that's generally with all the predators, except for the hyena. The hyena, the females are the big ones, and they're the ones with more testosterone than the males, which is very interesting. But we don't need to go down that route. All you need to know with hyenas, the female is the one in charge, as opposed to with all the other predators, it's normally the male who is bigger and the one in charge. Right, there's nothing in this particular area, so we're going to continue on the search for some predators, and let's head you back to James, who's doing exactly the same.
So what we're investigating here is this drag mark, and what we can see is the sand has been disturbed. Something has been pulled across the road here. Now, we think what's happened here is a leopard has pulled a kill across the road up in here and stashed it somewhere in the bush over there. So the bushwalk team's going to and help us. We're going to go around about the place and see if we can't find it. The first thing we have to do, of course, is avoid being run over by the road maintenance crew. And what this crew is doing, if you look to the left over here, you can see that the grass is burned. And the grass is burned because we're heading into fire season, and that means that they have to burn these breaks, these fire breaks, around the reserves, otherwise runaway fires can happen. There you we can see that chap there putting out the last bits of fire. Very valuable job, very important job. So we'll just drive a little bit along here and see if we don't get very lucky. We might just quickly spot a leopard. Beckett, a buffalo, has got enormous horns, and that's how it protects itself from its predators, by attacking them with its horns. And they're often often will attack lions and hurt lions quite badly. Now, if this leopard was close by, we'd expect him to be, or if this leopard is still around, we'd expect him to be relatively close to that area, and perhaps he would have drawn his kill into the shade, so you've got to look in all these shady parts here, or, if we're very lucky, he'll be up in a tree with his kill. But I don't see anything in any of these big trees up here. Let's just keep doing a very slow drive through here. Leopards can be quite skittish. Some of the ones we have here aren't skittish at all. Some of them are quite nervous and they don't like to be around cars. But all leopards are pretty secretive. I can't see anything in here. We don't want to drive sort of willy-nilly, as they say, through the bush, so we're just going to look a little bit and then go back out onto the road and head somewhere else. And then the bushwalk, which can do a much better job of following a track like this off-road, will follow up. So let's go back to him.
Right, everybody. I like getting up close and personal with the different poos of the bush. Now, this big poo that we've seen here, this one is very easy to identify. Why? Because of its sheer size. Look how big it is. It's nearly as big as my head. And this is actually a small one. They get much bigger than this. But if I break it open, we can actually see quite a little bit closer on the inside there. I'm sure it's not too old, and we can see lots of pieces of grass and leaves and branches and all sorts. So this is from a mixed feeder, and that would be of an elephant. They don't have a very good digestive system, as you can see, and they hardly digest anything. If I can just show you over here, there's a whole piece of wood that has gone right through it. So they break off pieces of branches and so on, and they chew it with their very big molars. They grind it up a little bit, and it literally passes almost straight through. So they're almost feeding all the time, are elephants, but it's a very important role that they play in the bush and in the ecosystem here, because they make this available now as food for all sorts of different little creatures. Now, what Craig is showing you over there is a different animal's poo. And we can see very much the difference in size from that poo over there to this poo over here. Now, and that would tell you that it's a much smaller animal. Now, if I take this, the only reason why I'm touching this with my hands is because I know that both of these animals are vegetarians and herbivores. So I'm not going to be getting sick by touching this. I wouldn't be touching it if it was an omnivore or a carnivore, which means that any of the animals that eat meat, I wouldn't be touching with my hands, because there's a lot of bacteria that could make me very sick. But this is almost like touching horse manure or donkey poo. It's not a problem. It's not going to make you sick. It might make your hands smell a little bit like your lawnmower at home when you cut the grass. That's about all. So this one here, this is from a much smaller animal, but he also eats quite similar to that of the elephant, and that is the warthog. Now, Sarah, you want to know if this dung could be a good fire starter? Absolutely, Sarah, but both of these are a little bit wet still. So when you dry this like this, we actually use this to start fires, and what you'll do is, if you can even take, if it was on a very hot day, I could actually take my binoculars and turn them around and direct that into the sun and get a nice little bright light on there, like I would do with a magnifying glass, and get that smoking there, and I could maybe start a fire. So this is very good to start fires. Is elephant dung, warthog dung, which is this nice round little pellets that we get, very similar to zebra and donkeys as well. and very similar on the inside as I showed you, but this is very wet. If you had to leave this in the sun for a few days and get a magnifying glass on it, you could definitely start a fire. So that's two animals with very similar digestive systems, but they are very different in size. A warthog being very small, probably about this big, and maybe only weighing about 20 kilograms, whereas an elephant weighing about 6 to 7 tons. Okay, I think we're going to continue on the search, and it's all about leopards this afternoon, although we're looking at everything else in between.
Anything? We're just looking for some tiny little birds. You caught me asking Sebastian there if he'd managed to spot them with the camera. There they are. Not the best picture in the world because they're sitting behind the bush. They are chin-spot battises. And the chin-spot battis is a tiny little black and white bird, but they're so pretty. If we can see it, it would be just great. But unfortunately, they seem to be a little bit too wily for us. No, Dexter, toucans only occur in South America. They don't occur in Africa. We do get hornbills, though, which I suppose could be considered slightly similar. They're on a low-hanging bush there, Sebastian, just through this big bush. So if you sort of zoom through the middle, to the right, left of that, left, through there you can see they've just flown off, I think. It was on that bush that they were. And now, of course, they've gone silent. They were very nervous of being on screen, you see. So, Dexter, no toucans here. I mean, there should be lots of hornbills around here. We should be able to show you one. And what is a green barbet? Well, while I find a picture of a green barbet, let's have a look at that other black and white bird called a magpie shrike with its great big long tail. I'll find you a picture of a green barbet. Sarah, it's not going to be the most impressive bird you've ever seen, I warn you. They are not, they're greenish. They're more brown than green. Let me find him for you. There we go. There's actually quite a nice picture of one. I suspect that's more the artist than the actual barbet itself. Is that going to be okay, Seb?
Yeah.
That is the green barbet over there. He's quite a pretty bird. I'll show you another picture. Oh, that's his distribution. There he is. That's him in real life. So he's not exactly a bright green parrot-like bird. Yes, I mean, he's really hasn't got much going for him on the looks front. But you actually get some very beautiful barbets. I'll show you another picture of a nice barbet. Very pretty. Xavi, the green barbet's wingspan is probably about that big. So 25 centimetres or so. Not very big. I just want to show you one of the colourful barbets that we get here. One of my favourite birds. Very common they are. There he is. That's the crested barbet. And they're found all over here. Reds, blacks, whites, oranges and yellows, the scruffiest bird in all the land. The crested barbet, Trachyphonus valianti. You don't have to remember that, it's the first time I've seen it. I've never bothered before, but that's really quite a fun Latin name. Trachyphonus valianti. Don't know what that means. Alrighty, let's carry on. In the meantime, I believe Ralph is now on a power walk.
Well, everyone, we have been walking and we're getting closer to this leopard, but it's not going to happen in the next few minutes. And I know that there's not too much left for the school drive. So what I did want to just show you is a few little tracks that we have. But there's one very big track here, which is going around like this. And it's that of an elephant. Now, I just want to draw the outside of it so that it's very clear for you. It's somewhere there. It runs like this, and it's running like this. This is a big bull elephant track here. And look at my foot next to it. It is huge. You see that? That's an elephant track there, nice, big and round. And then what we've got on the inside, we've got some very small little antelope tracks here. There's one, here's another one there. See there, it's 2 little toes, another 2 little toes. That's that of a little steenbok. So a little steenbok that's been walking through. And then there's a little bird track here. That's 3 toes there, but he's going in this direction, coming towards us. So all sorts of little things that have been moving around there. And what we have over here, let me just get a little stick, and I'm going to show you this little guy here, because he's very interesting, is he? This is an antlion larva. Now, what this is here, this is a little trap for ants. And if I just pretend to be a little ant, we can see what he does. I'll just knock the sand a little bit, and you'll see he's going to throw the sand up, hopefully. Let's see if he's going to do it. Sometimes they don't do it. Maybe he's heard us coming. But normally he'll throw the sand up with these little pincers. No, it doesn't look like he's doing it today. Maybe he heard us and he's getting a little bit scared. But what he is he's a little creature that's got 2 pincers like this, and he's actually a larva that attacks ants and little other insects. So he's got 2 little pincers like this, and if an ant comes near to the side, he throws the sand up, and that'll knock him down, and then he grabs it and pulls it down underneath the surface, and then he'll suck all the juices out of him from there, and then he'll get bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's what he's doing. But I don't want to disturb him too much. Maybe he got scared because he can hear my voice, and so he's not playing along today. But well, you see how many little things there are all the way as we're walking along. We're walking on a nice big path of the elephants. There's also little antelope that walk in here, and we've got all sorts of little things. Now, Elizabeth, hippos are very heavy, but they also run very fast because they need to. They're very fit, they're very strong, and they've got a lot of muscles in their legs, and they're big animals. So just because of that, and they run on 4 legs as well, it does help them to run a lot faster than us. We can run for a long period. We have very good endurance, and we can run for longer than a lot of these animals, but we can't run faster than them. And when I say longer, I mean that, some of the Khoisan people, they can run for 3 days without stopping, and that's incredible. But these animals won't be able to run for that long. Now, here's one of the trees that we find around here. This is the old acacia. We still like to call it acacia because it's very indicative of South Africa and Africa. But look at these massive thorns that we find on them, and very green leaves still. The giraffe like to eat these little leaflets, and they're very nutritious as well. And even the elephants, they'll break these branches off, but they'll eat the entire thorn. And I tell you, they are very sharp. One thing that these are good for, and I'll show you what I mean when I say what they are good for. Let me just grab my knife, and I'll show you what these thorns can be used for. You do need to be careful of them, however, because if they're on the ground, they can very easily go into your shoe, which I've had many times as well. But if you've had a meal and you don't have a toothpick when you're out camping or anything, you can take one of these and use it as a toothpick. See that? Very good. Okay, so not that I've had lunch just now, but maybe just in case I had anything stuck in my teeth, I was just making sure that I'm all cleaned up with a nice natural toothpick. Right, everybody, I hope that you enjoyed the school safari. Please join us again, and you're welcome to join us on the rest of the safari. But for now, we're going to say goodbye to the school safari, and we're going to continue on looking for this leopard. In the meantime, I'm going to head you on over and say hello to Sydney.
A very, very good afternoon and welcome to the beginning of my drive this afternoon. I am Sydney and I'm going to be with you this afternoon. I am not traveling alone this afternoon. I am with David. He is my photographer and we are just going to take it from previous. This morning I was on a guided walk and I did manage to pick up some fresh leopard tracks. So I'm just going to hang around that area and see what we can get. And then to those who would like to follow us this afternoon, you can follow us on Twitter, #SafariLive, or else alternatively, you can go to our YouTube chat stream. I hope this afternoon is going to be very interesting, and considering the weather, it is nice and sunny, and this morning was misty a little bit. It was quite very difficult to see the animals, so this afternoon maybe the cats are going to come out and enjoy the sun. Let's go and see what we are going to find. I will be concentrating this afternoon much more on the eastern side, as the tracks that we saw, they were all heading towards that direction. So let's go and see. Yeah, it's actually very, very nice and warm, and you can see here no animals at all. Maybe all these animals decided to move down towards the Waterhole, so we are heading towards a Twins Dam now, whereby I am hoping to see some activities taking place. A question from Puma. Here by the Juma Game Reserve, the animals that are occurring here, they are different from the animals that are occurring where I come from. Yesterday, I was very lucky to come across the Batalia, and it's one of the birds that I never saw before. It was my first encounter with the Batalia yesterday. So there's even other more animals that are still new to me, and it will be very great and an ornament for me to meet those kind of animals here in Juma Game Reserve. Yeah, it is still no activities taking place here where we are. So let me just try and see if we can find some signs here on the road. Yeah, it is still not clear. So you can see much more that side there. The vegetation is much more open. It's much more open. You can see for quite a long distance, but the activities are not there. But this is normal. On a game drive, you know, the animals can easily hide. It's not every time whereby we can see animals just by the beginning. We're going to have to work hard and track and see if we can find them. Oh, look at this tree here, huh? It was quite a very beautiful big tree. So now I'm going to Rolf, who is on a guided walk. Maybe Rolf has got something to show us on his side.
I haven't got anything to show you just yet, everyone. We're actually trying to cover some ground and get towards where we've heard where that buffalo was making a bit of noise, as well as where Shudulu potentially made a kill. And there's also a chance that we're going to pick up on Tingana. So we're actually trying our best to cover a little bit of ground, but we always just take it a little bit slowly. Well, not slowly, but you know, we do need to listen out as we're going as well. As you can see, there's also some little booby traps as we go along too. But when I say we do need to be a little bit careful, we always need to listen out for any kind of warning signs that we might pick up. And so it's not just a mad rush going through the bush. But have a look at this. I think this is from an elephant that's maybe dug this out and rolled it around. This is from a termite mound, and you can see all the little chambers and all that. And when I say that it's probably from an elephant, they can often tusk at the sides of termite mounds, and they also actually like to feed on a little bit of this, because this is a very nutrient-rich soil, mostly with the termites that they put here. So it can also have a lot of mineral salts. Excuse me. And so it's almost like a little bit of a bar snack for an elephant. And if they feel like they are lacking in a little bit of salts, they may go to a termite mound and go and feed on it. And then afterwards, it seems like they're using this as a bit of a football. So it might be a bit of games. And speaking of football, we know that France made the semi-final. They won the semi-final last night in the Soccer World Cup against Belgium. So well done, France. Allez les Bleus. Viva la France. We do have Sebastian, in one of our camera operators. He was very happy, to say the least. And tonight being Croatia and England, you can send us through on the hashtag Safari Live who is your preferred candidate tonight out of England and Croatia. But while you're doing that, we're going to hot-foot it and see if we can find some cats.
Well, we are trying to find some cats quite desperately. We are going with the new school, that is with the thermal drone, trying to fly over the area where the drag mark was. Unfortunately, we don't seem to be having much success. I have utmost faith that if Herbert was to get to this area, he would probably have a much better chance with the old school. That's what Ralph and Herbert are doing. So let's take a quick look at the drone picture. We won't stick on it for long. Just give you an idea of what the heat of the day has done to the landscape. Are we on the drone pic? Alrighty, and you can see the heat of the trees there, and basically what you're seeing here is that the drone is going to pick up the hottest points there. So the hottest points that you can see, they're very clearly termite mounds. You can see that very obviously. And the problem is, or the difficulty is, while we're flying over this landscape, is of course that on a hot day like this, the temperature of some of the wood that's been in the sun all day, some of the termite mounds that have been in the sun all day and have had obviously some not only sun, but they're producing internal heat, of course, will be probably as hot as the bodies of an insulated mammal, such as a leopard or an impala. Now, I don't suppose we can go to the normal or the other camera, can we, sir? So we'll just take you to the normal view. There we are. So that's the normal picture, if you like. And you can see the landscape looks very much wintry indeed. Now, I mean, obviously that's not particularly saturated. A bit of picture break up there, that's odd. Anyway, there is the Djuma Dam you can see there, that's the Waterhole, and there is Vuyatela. Bushy Bodge, I'm glad you're finding this very interesting. That's marvellous news indeed. Let's just swing, let's swing around towards the north a bit, fly a little bit that direction, and then we'll bring her home. So you can see quite a sort of burnt out winter landscape. That's pretty normal. Let's go back to the thermal now and see if we can pick up any more thermal image. Okay, there's the comparison you can see. And you can see actually, well, what's that termite mound on the sort of centre bottom of the picture as we fly over it? That's interesting. Look at the shaded side is not shining with heat. That's fascinating. See that on the thermal? It's only the sunny side that is shining bright white. Fascinating. So basically what this thing does, of course, is pick up a heat signature. It's supposed to pick up a heat signature of a mammal, and obviously the colder the landscape is, the more obvious the mammal is going to look. But on a day like this, when the termite mounds and the trees and the bushes are pretty much as hot as the mammals would be, because they're insulated, obviously not the internal temperature of the mammals, but because the outside temperature is probably quite the same, it's going to be quite difficult. Okay, Sydney, as you've seen, is out, and he has now found a static tree.
A lot of people, they think the trees are just part of the natural system. They just think trees, they're just part of the natural landscape. So this is one of the trees that can grow up to many years. These trees can grow up to 1,000 years. This tree I'm holding now, it is called the leadwood. So the leadwood is one of the Combretum family. So trees, they are only not standing here to provide the shelter for the animals. Yes, they also give us the breathable air. They also absorb a lot of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere when they are facilitating the process of making food, which is called a photosynthesis. So trees are part of the organisms that are growing for quite a very long time, and they don't die from old age. So it's one of those organisms which are not just dying from the old age. So if you can just check now, this leadwood, if you come here after many years, you're still going to find it standing like this. So these trees, they've got an ability to grow, and when they're died, they can again stand for more or less the same kind of years. So you can see that this is quite a very beautiful trees. Eh? So still on this tree, some of these animals, they select some of the species. Animals such as kudus, sometimes they don't eat some of these trees, especially some of the acacia trees. There is one of the interesting acacia tree called the Acacia robusta. It's called a broad pod. That plant contains over 5% of tannin, and tannin is the one which gives problems to these animals. Kudus, they avoid those kind of trees. And apart from that, they know some of these trees, like our euphobias, if they go and eat there, their eyes are going to go blind. So you will see they can easily blind themselves. So that is why they've got to sometimes try and avoid some of the dangerous trees. So this is a leadwood tree. You can see the bark is looking a little bit like a crocodile skin. It's quite an old tree, and it's one of those trees that can stand here for quite many years. So I am now going to carry on and see if I can find some of the interesting wildlife, and the most target is going to be the cats. So let's head down and see if we can find something interesting on the other side. And I'm just going to now start trekking a little bit, and I will be relying on a lot of the natural indicators. So I will be listening to what the birds are saying to me, giving alarm calls, and some of the animals that get hunted. Obviously, the impalas, when they're giving their warning calls, I'm going to rely on them so that we can be able to have a sighting this afternoon. Still very, very, very quiet. Let me get back to my vehicle now and see what we are going to find. So let's carry on. So my plan now is we are going to Twins Dam and see if something is drinking that side. So I just got a question to take now. Yes, there was a question from Wanda. I didn't copy that question very nicely, but it has got something to do with the fires and the trees. If you can just please repeat that. Yeah, there is a question from Rwanda, Wanda, which is about the fires affecting the trees. Wanda, that is quite a very amazing question. It's an interesting question to ask. The fires, they don't really affect the trees, especially if the fires are more controlled. But here by the world, we do experience some of the fires which can cause a detrimental effect to the species such as trees. But the controlled fires don't really, because we we do look after them. Yes, fires, they've got both positive and negative impact here on these ecologies. But if the fire is too much, but that is determined by the type of fire occurring. Not all the fires can damage the trees. So now I am going to my other colleague, Ralph, to see if maybe there is any luck on his side, as he is also looking for some cats.
Well, we are looking for cats, but as per usual, we're going to be talking about everything and all sorts in between. And what we've come across is a little bit of a controlled burn right on the perimeter of the property. And I'm sure a little bit earlier you might have seen that there was a tractor passing by, James, and that was part of the management team. They've been busy with a controlled burn. As you can see, one of the branches here still smouldering. It's still on fire, but this is now in the middle of a sort of section that has burnt all around it. So the potential of this now taking off again is little to nothing. And so the point of this particular area is actually as a fire break. And when we say fire break now, we've got a road just off to our south and a road just off to our north. And they've burnt this section in between. So what that would do is that we call it a fire break, but it's not going to stop fires. What fire breaks are for an area where you can fight a fire from. So don't make the mistake of thinking that a fire break stops fire, because it doesn't. It's where you can fight them from. And how do we fight fires? Well, we don't necessarily just put them out, because if you've ever been involved in fighting a fire and you try to put a fire out by beating it out, by spraying it out, and the wind picks up, you will see that you do not stand a chance. What you do is, from this particular point, you would backburn, and you would fight fire with fire. So that phrase is not, it hasn't come about for nothing. It literally does mean exactly what we say about it. Because if we had to have a fire starting off in our concession and it was moving in our direction, what we would do is you would run around to an area like this of a fire break, and then you sacrifice that area and you backburn. You start the fire and burn it into the wind to where that fire is coming from. So we'd start it on the southern side here. If this fire was coming from our southern side, we'd start it here and burn it into the wind, and then we would be able to fight the fire from this side. That if it started to creep across, we've got this whole patch here, it's probably about 50 meters, maybe less, that we've got to be able to fight this fire from. Because if you've ever seen those fires, when the wind fans it, it can also climb up over your head, and it can very easily jump even kilometers sometimes with the wind. So that's one of the reasons why we do make fire breaks, and as I say, it's just a point to fight that fire from. Now, Noriko, another reason why we do make fires. This one is obviously just as a fire break, but what you are seeing here is exactly what your question is asking. Does this ash fertilize the soil? And I would have to say an unequivocal yes. Absolutely, it does fertilize the soil. It releases nitrogen and carbon back into the soil that would have been trapped up in this grass itself over here. And now it has been released back into the soil. And as soon as you have a little bit of rain, you're going to have a real big sprouting of new vegetation coming through and green shoots, etc. And so an absolutely important part of the ecosystem is fire, especially when you've got a lot of build-up of moribund, which is what we call the very large mass of vegetable grass matter that builds up to the point where it's actually suffocating the grass, the new grass coming through. So it cannot grow anymore. There's not enough sunlight coming through. There's not enough space, actually, for new grass to come through as well. So it's actually important important to get rid of that moribund, release the carbon and the nitrogen back into the soil and make that available for the next year's growth as soon as you have some rainfall. But generally you wouldn't do burning. We do it now in the sort of winter months, but normally just before the rains. I think the reason why they've done this fire break is because it was so misty this morning, so it was quite wet, and so the chances of it actually busting out and making a real runaway fire was also little to nothing. So that's probably why they used this morning in particular. Right, we're going to get back on the road and back on those leopard tracks, and I think we're not the only ones.
Well, you are the only ones now, I'm afraid. We've given up on the leopard tracks. We tried to find the leopard with Thelma the drone, failed dismally, couldn't find any further tracks that were visible to my eyes, and so we are now going to go to Buffelshoek Waterhole, console ourselves with the fact that our lot is nothing like that of the miserable Scuba Steve. This is a welcome relief on the way to Buffelshoek Waterhole. That, of course, is a red-billed hornbill. You know that, of course, Sebastian, because it has a red bill. Well done. Good. Well done.
Chili bird.
No, we don't say that. The chili bird, yes. It's one of those things that you learn as a guide never to say, because everyone said it. The chili bird, the banana bird, the salt and pepper bird. He's eating ants, I think. Astonishingly accurate, the way he uses his chili to pick out ants. And of course, if he gets wind of the fire break that's just been burned, I think he'll pop up there. There were certainly quite a few grey hornbills over there, looking for insects that had been unearthed by the fire. I think this is quite a young one. You can see that the back of his beak is not fully red yet. Every time he tosses his head back, of course, he's accurately throwing whatever he's picked up into the back of his throat. Just try and appreciate the coordination and skill it takes to do this. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a dog that's got one of those cones around its head and how they walk into things because they can't judge that far in front of their heads. Well, the hornbill and most birds show remarkable awareness of where the tips of their beaks are. And if you think that that's not so much a great deal or a very big deal, as I've said to many of you before, go and find a traffic cone, steal it from the road, strap it to the front of your face, and see how accurately you're able to go and tap. You can paint a target on your wall. See how accurately you can tap with it. Not very easily. It's because you aren't designed to see and focus that exact distance in front of your face. Jill, they are not related to toucans as far as I'm aware. They are, of course, an old world species. In other words, they occur here in Africa and in the Palearctic. And they do not occur in the New World, in the Americas, in the Occident. And so I think you'll find that they are no more related than, I don't know, those birds might be to most other families there. That's probably not true, but I don't think that they're particularly closely related to toucans. I'd love to see a toucan. Fantastic. Sydney has found some poo-poo.
Yeah, I've got a very beautiful sighting here. So I just want to draw a line here so that you can all see and understand what I'm talking about. This is what is called a maiden, and this maiden is from one of the animals that you have been seeing a lot. It's just that I am not going to disclose the name of this animal. What I'm going to do now is that I'm going to ask one or any of my viewers to try and figure it out. Who can tell me what animal is this? I am going to introduce one of the activities that we normally do out in the bush here as guides. So we do sometimes play what is called a speed competition. So I am going to have my photographer with, and both of us are going to challenge each other and see who is going to speed the furthest. So David is coming to join me here now, and then we will take it from there. What I'm going to do now is that I'm going to draw a line where myself and Craig and David, we are going to stand. We are going to stand here, and we are going to speed there. That's I'm not going to draw a line for now, because the line will be determined by the distance in which the furthest dropping is going to land. So you can have one of these.
All right.
You can go first. You can go first.
First, huh?
Yes, you can go first.
All right.
Let's see. Oh, it's there.
Not bad.
Oh, I think David won the game. You can see. Let me just try to check the distance. So no, he managed to win. He won the battle. So that is one of the activities that we are having. It's called a speed competition. That is a speed competition. So we are going to head on now and see. We are going to head on now and see what we are going to find. We are going to head to Twins Dam, whereby I'm hoping to see some animal activities there. And then congratulations to David for winning the competition. It was a very difficult competition. So now I want to check who's got the answer for me. What droppings? I didn't get the name very nicely, but Sisa, I did. You are not Sisa, you are not very far away from the answer. So if you look at these droppings, let me just get down again and show you very nicely. If you can check very nicely here, you will see that these droppings are very small. And they are not that very big when it comes to the size. So this is obviously not a wildebeest. So I'm just going to check the 1 or 2, 3 answers and see if there is a correct answer on them. And then we will take it from there. So I'm going to have these droppings with so that I can show you. So let's carry on. So now we are going to, we are now going to Twins Dam, and now I got another try. Congratulations to Debbie. Yes, these droppings are from the impala, but maybe something to add on is that the droppings is from the male impala. As males, they try to demarcate their territories. Congratulations to Debbie for the answer. It is true, is an impala. So we are now going to head on to Twins Dam and see if there's any other developments with regards to the animal activities on that side. Let's see. So while I'm looking for these animals, I just want to check if maybe by the other side where the bushwalk is taking place, if there's other updates there. So the bushwalk is going to show us something interesting.
Well, I always like it. These starlings, I love how that blue shimmer that they get when you look in the sunlight. And it's actually quite an illusion, that if you look at the science of it. But there's quite a lot of birds around here. I think it's as a result of this fire having come through here. I'm sure there's a lot of insects that have been bumped up and moved around. See there's some grey hornbills also flying in amongst them. They all seem to be moving around. But when there are fires like this, you can very often find that there's quite a lot of food then available from then. And sometimes when we're like on the Highveld in South Africa, near to Johannesburg, we get fires there every year because traditionally it's a grassland. And as the fire's moving, you can see a lot of herons and egrets. They come and they sit in front of the fire as the fire's moving because all the little insects are bumping out in front of the fire. So then they start feeding on it from there. So it's interesting to note how the animals also react to the fires and sometimes come towards it as opposed to leaving from it. Now, Jill, lots of controlled burns have gotten out of control. Absolutely. It takes a very big team effort. I've been involved with many fires and controlled burns, fire breaks, and also controlled burns, to release the moribund, as I was chatting about. But we've had many occasions where it wasn't predicted for big wind, but the wind has picked up and it's just taken the fire that we weren't able to stop it. We've had to get the neighbors involved, and we've actually had one where I was involved with. I didn't plan it, luckily, but I was involved with it, and it actually got out of control. It burnt all the way from our game reserve all the way nearly to Grahamstown. That's nearly 100 kilometers away. It was incredible, and that fire just kept going. So it can cause total devastation. It can destroy people's livelihoods. It can destroy their houses, their livestock, their wild animals, etc. So it was a total disaster, and obviously there was lots of heads that had to roll after that. So it can get out of control. It does get out of control, and it needs to be planned to the T. You need to have a lot of manpower. So there's a lot of guys, you very often have guys walk. It depends on the scale of things that you're going to be working with. But normally a big tractor needs to be the first and foremost thing there, and a very good skilled driver that knows how to drive a tractor very well, with a big tanker behind, or we call it a bowser. It's a big water tank with water that can be pumped from there on almost like a fire hydrant, and then a lot of guys with water tanks on their backs, and then you've got little pumps that you can pump water with. Then you've got beaters as well. Then you've got spotters, guys that need to check if the fire, jumps, and that you don't even realize it, because we've been fighting a fire or just keeping it under control in one spot, and we've had it jumping literally 300 meters, and it was burning far away from us, and we didn't even know it. And luckily we had guys that had seen it, that we had running up and down almost like scouts, just making sure that it hasn't burned in other areas. But this is a controlled burn, and it's totally out now. No problem from here. And we're just going to now continue on our search for the kitty cats.
We are on the search for anything, frankly, with a heartbeat. It would be wonderful to find something with a heartbeat. We're nearly at Buffelshoek Waterhole, and very shortly we are going to tell the last and final episode 5 it will be, of the trials of Scuba Steve. Oh, there are some elephants as well, says Sebastian. He's managed to spot them. Marvellous. Are they invisible elephants? One invisible elephant. On that side. Oh, there he is. Oh my goodness. Quickly, forget the elephant. We have something to behold. Look at that. Can you believe it? Scuba Steve has got a friend. It's not a hippopotamus. Here we go with episode 5. Are you ready, Sebastian?
Yeah.
Oh, hello guys. As you'll see, since you last saw me, Sarah has left me. She decided that I was boring and that I did not fulfill her needs. She kept wanting to go out for the night, down to other spots like Chitwa where there are lots of other hippopotamuses. I didn't want to do that. I'm very happy here at Biffle's Hook Dam, and so now I have made friends with the terrapins. Yes, he's made friends with us. We like him very well. We like him so much. He's like a special island. He's a special kind of an island, is this hippopotamus? Yes, he is. What do you say, Alan? Oh, he's a lovely, special kind of an island, isn't he? Isn't he, George? Yes, he is. Oh, look, here comes Peter. Oh, jump in the water. I think there's someone else coming. Oh, come on, guys, don't leave me alone. Well, as long as you stay close by there in the water, I quite like you. You don't put any demands on me other than to sit on me. It's the emotional demands, you know. It's the emotional strain of a relationship that really put me out. Anyway, that's my lot.
And so ends the episode of Scuba Steve. Let us go across to the elephant, who has now turned his bottom to us in disgust. How on earth we could possibly be looking at the world's most boring hippopotamus when we could have been looking at him? Young bull. There's another young bull in the Tambuti Grove just to the western side of the dam wall, but we'll go and have a look at him shortly. Let us remain here with that young bull. Must be a herd somewhere close by. He doesn't look quite old enough to be on his own. I feel like I haven't had a good long elephant sighting for some time. And of course in winter there's just this frantic need from all of them to do their best to find sufficient food to eat. They can't just stroll along and pick tufts of grass, shake off the dirt and eat them. Now it's, will this stick taste nice? Will this dried pod provide any nutrition? What about this patch of grass? No, that's disgusting. Not about this little creeper. Well, we could eat that. It's a bit poisonous, but, you know, it does have the odd bit of nutrition in it. Very angry birds. It's interesting. He's shaking his head. I don't know if that's at Scoob, but there are some very angry birds shouting in the background. It's a tree full of starlings looking down. Can you see them there? They are
in that dead tree.
In that, no, beyond the dead tree. There's a whole patch full of them. They're flitting about. If you just no, yeah, that's it. Those little blue spots there. You can hear them alarm calling. T. And they're not going quite mad enough, I don't think, for there to be a leopard walking. It'd be quite fun if a leopard came down now. No. All right, let's watch the hippopotamus departing. Not the, yes, I mean the elephant. That's what that is, I think. I think that's an elephant. Yes, Mrs. Anom, it is very classic young bull having a little tantrum, shaking his head like that. A little bit like a sort of slightly spoiled 10-year-old child. Not a full tantrum, but just growing out of the tantrum phase. Of course, a young bull that throws a lot of tantrums could easily turn into an old bull that gives quite a lot of trouble. And let's hope that the older bulls in this vicinity will teach him some manners, which is what normally happens. Then in front of him we have the world's worst parents, and they are currently feeding side by side. I suppose we should eventually do a soap opera for them too, shouldn't we? We'll have to pick an accent, national accent for them. No, Carol, they're not alarm calling at the Ellies. They are alarm calling at something else. They might just be having a bit of a fight. It's interesting. It's only round in winter that the starlings tend to flock like that. Most of the time they're on their own or in very small groups, but they do flock from time to time in the winter. And I think maybe there was a snake there or something like that. They were definitely alarm calling though. But they weren't alarm calling at the elephant. He's quite a long way away from them. And I don't think they would alarm call at him. Sydney is now on his own little bushwalk. I'm not sure what he's discovered.
Yeah, I have been looking for the tracks here in this area, and I am still busy trying to track if we can find one of these lovely cats here by the Djuma Game Reserve this afternoon. And while still looking for these tracks, I want us to consider the following. Right here in front of me, I have got something growing, and I'm not very sure what this one is. What I'm going to do is I am going to show you the difference between this plant and these other plants here nearby. So I just want to check the difference here between this and this one. So if you can check very nicely here on this is what is called a grass. And what makes this a grass is the following. You see, it has got this is what is called a node, and it has got that. This is what is called an internode. And if you can check here, by this one, there is no nodes and no internodes. So this is a tree, and this is a grass. If you look here, you see this is what is called the inflorescence. And here by the tree, there is no inflorescence. So if you can now check something again is, this leaf is attached to the stem, and it doesn't fall easily. And this leaf, it is attached to the stem, but it's not against the stem. So that is the difference between the grass and the tree. So here comes now a big question. Do we eat grass as human beings? I know a lot of people, they get confused when it comes to the difference between trees and grasses. All we think about is fruits we get from the trees, and forget that we also eat grass, and we eat grass every day. If you can check from our diet, we eat grass in the form of rice, and we eat grass in the form of sorghum, and we also eat grass in the form of maize. If you can check those plants, they have got nodes and internodes. Sorghum is what makes beer. In other words, as humans, we eat grass and we get drunk, we drink and get drunk from the grasses. It's just that we are not like the animals. Animals are not feeding on the processed grass. We are depending on the processed grass. So now we are going to head on towards the northwestern side of the game reserve and see if we can find something interesting. My hopes are very high this afternoon. I am very much convinced about what I saw this morning. The tracks were very much fresh. So we can now head on and see if we can find something by the northwestern side of the reserve. Let me get back to my lovely vehicle and see if we can find something. So now we are still going to one of the dams where we are hoping to see something coming to drink. So now, I just want to check if there is some other things interesting on the other side. So I will be now going to Ralph. He's got something interesting by the tall grasses.
Well, everyone, not in the grasses. We in the area where Tristan had spotted the leopard with some drag marks. So we're just checking and seeing if we can find it. But while we're walking through here, I just want to indicate this is one of the only trees as we're walking through the block here that has some green leaves on it. And this is a very indicative or distinguishable tree quite easily, because if I pick one of the little leaves here, what I always used to say to my students is if you can see those 3 veins coming from the base, 1, 2, 3, one on each side, well, one on each side and one coming straight up the middle, I always used to say that's black monkey orange. So very easy to distinguish this particular tree. It's got very sort of straight-like branches with lots of secondary branches coming off of it. But another thing that it does have, if you look at the trunk, it always looks like it's been sponged with whitewash. So a little bit of sponging there with whitewash. And these trees, we've seen a few of them in the area, but these trees, they get a very big round fruit on it like that, which we call a monkey orange, which is very hard on the surface, and they make a lot of curios out of them. If you come to South Africa, you'll get a lot of black monkey orange curios. They make them into salt and pepper. They also polish them and paint all sorts of things on them, like the African flag or South African images of the local people or cultural experiences, etc., things like that. But it's quite similar to that of the ostrich eggs. So you can also polish these up. And so, as I say, one of the only plants that's giving us a little bit of green at the moment, and that being the black monkey orange. One up front there looks like a tree wisteria. That one that's green straight ahead of us there, I'm pretty sure that's a tree wisteria. But other than that, we can see there's only the odd sort of bush willow leaves that's popping out. Otherwise, it's totally barren. There's not much in the way of leaves or any greenery whatsoever. And so when we're now looking for the leopards, we're going on top of the termite mounds. We're actually trying to see if this particular leopard that we can see drag marks from, next to the fire break there, come into this block. We're now looking to see if we can find that it's dragged. It looks like it's either a duiker or a steenbok that it's been dragging, trying to see if it's up in the tree, but all with the same drab brown color. So it's quite difficult, and we're really straining our eyes to see if we can spot the spots and if we can see any animals hanging up in the tree. Now, we're going to continue straining our eyes, and it seems like Sydney doesn't need to strain anymore.
Now, this is one of the very, very, very most beautiful animal. You can see they are very much stationary, feeding, no problem, not disturbed at all. I have got the elephants here, and now that the sun is going towards the western side, elephants, they mostly try by all means to avoid the sun, because when the sun is at the horizons, it's when it's too very bright. Something else you must remember about elephants is that they don't like the spotlights. So when the sun is shining too much on their eyes, they also experience problems. You can see now that elephant is trying to excrete some of the droppings. These animals, they can be able to eat up to 400 kilograms a day. And from that 400 kilograms, they are not going to digest everything. They are only going to digest just about 48% from the whole 400 kilograms. So that is why their droppings, they still have got quite a lot of materials which are not finally digested. So other animals, together with other insects, such as my favorite insects, dung beetles, they know that nutrients are still very highly available by the elephant droppings. So the elephants, they have got very big ears, and these ears helps them. When the sun is very hot, they use their ears in order to cool the body temperature. So they've got some vein system behind the ears, whereby when they're flapping the ears, then they can easily cool their body temperature. Look, they don't want to digest the sand and the soil. First, they grab the grass and they shake it a little bit, make use of their trunk. That trunk is a very strong equipment and is used for quite a lot of things. They grab from it and they also drink water from it, and they even nest their little ones. They give their little ones water from the very same trunk. So you can see that where I am and where that elephant is quite a very comfortable distance. It's not worried about me at all. I didn't get the name of the viewer nicely, but the question I managed to get it very nicely. The question is, why do the elephant only... Wildlife Warrior has got a question about why this elephant got a little bit of hairs by the tip of the tail. If you can check, the tail is very close to the excretory organ for the droppings, which means when there is hairs on the tip of the tail, it helps them, because when there's things such as flies, they can be able to chase the flies away. So that is why they have got some hairs there on the tip of their tail. So these animals, they can hear very well, and their sense of smell is very good. Look at that head. Can you see that the elephant has got a big head? And that is telling us, it's a sign that these elephants, they've got a very big brain. So the elephants are very much intelligent. So you can see that the big head is telling you there is a very big brain stored inside there. So another interesting thing about elephant is their social structure. Yeah, the elephants, they've got a big brain and they are very much clever. You are right. Their social structure is interesting. Elephants are not like other animals. If you can check, elephants, they've got a matriarchal kind of a social structure, whereby these females, they've got high ranks. But if you go to other animals who's got that similar kind of a social structure, for instance, the spotted hyenas, you'll find that the male spotted hyenas, in terms of the size, they are way much smaller than the females. Females, they are much bigger. But to the elephant, it's not like that. You find the males, they are bigger than the females, but still, those males got to take orders from their females. In fact, the male elephants, they are the subordinates of the matriarch females. Yeah, Paula, the question about elephants showing a sign of aggression, make use of the tail. They don't really wave the tail when they're angry. They actually lift the tail up. And then some of the things you must have to consider is that when they're angry, you must check the ears. They flap their ears. But don't get confused, like I said earlier, that when the elephants are trying to cool their body temperature, they use the very same ears. So you're going to have to be very much careful. So you see, the elephants don't eat a lot of grasses. A high percentage of their diet is on trees and less grass, because the trees, they give them a lot of energy. There's quite a lot of protein available by the trees than by the grass. So he's trying to follow the others. No, it's quite a very big herd. Yes, I got a question from Marsh. If the elephants sometimes do lift up one foot. Elephants, they do that, especially when they're very much relaxed. You will find them folding their back legs, and sometimes with one and tossing the ground. You find one tossing the ground. The interesting thing about them is that elephants cannot jump because of the big body size. So that is the disappointing part. They cannot jump at all. Imagine such a big animal with such a very big body trying to jump. And they don't make any noise. While moving, they are very much silent. Yeah, you can see those ones moving to that side. It's just that from where you are not experiencing what I am hearing now. All I'm hearing is the leaves when they're squashing the leaves as they're walking, but I am not hearing any noise. Apart from the leaves and the sticks breaking, no other noise is punctuated. Yeah, it was a very great sighting. And then now let's hear what Rolf has got. I think he's got a very lovely story to tell about the termite.
Thanks, Sydney. Well, I don't have any special story in particular. I'm just enjoying being in one of these really weird sculptures that the termites have made. And I always find it amazing how they do actually manage to build these kind of structures. With them being so tiny, I think I see some movement over here. But this is little ants that are moving around here. It's not termites. So that's not the guys that have actually made this. These are now just walking around on top. But what fascinates me is that how they've made this literally out of just soil and their saliva. And they've managed to be able to build this almost skyscrapers out here in the bush. And it's for me, it's incredible. I mean, look at the size of this. And you can see, if I just move around here, you can actually see the little intricacies that they have been building, all these little tunnels and things. This one is obviously not really finished yet, but you can see how it's sort of hollowed out on the inside, and each one would have been bringing up a little ball and placing it and pressing it on with their saliva. And the saliva's got enzymes that does assist in helping sticking this together. And they very often use quite a limey soil that does then sort of turn into a little bit more concrete and make it quite solid. I mean, it is literally like concrete. It's really, really, really solid. So it's quite amazing indeed. Now, Carrie, these mounds are quite warm, and I just want to find one of the holes because I was actually looking for one this morning. Here's one over here, and this is like a chimney for the termites over here. And very often, if it is active, and there's a big stone in the middle here, so I think it might be blocking the heat actually coming out. So they might be using a couple more of these chimneys. But normally when it's very cold in winter, you can actually use this as a heater. Because, now the question being, why is it so warm? Well, because below the surface of the soil here, these termites, they're actually cultivating a fungus, which helps them to digest the cellulose within grass, because they can't digest that. So they cultivate fungus, which will then, it's a symbiotic relationship between the termites and this fungus, and then they feed on the fungus. But with that being said, fungus needs quite specific conditions for them to be able to grow. And it's normally, I think it's between 32 and 36 degrees centigrade for the optimum temperature and growth of this fungus that the termites now need to keep for that fungus to grow. Because without it, they will die, and without the termites, the fungus will die. So it's very important that they keep this and maintain this temperature. And so that's why it's so warm. Right, we're going to continue on the search, but always wonderful to be in the presence of termites and their mounds. But I'm going to send you on over to James with some very big animals.
Well, yes, some big animals. Unsurprisingly, the big animals are, of course, elephants. There they are, having a nice drinky. Perfect time for them to come down for tea. I know some people who'd be having their first evening drink by now, but the elephants are just having their tea. It is, after all, a Wednesday afternoon. Very quiet. Very peaceful, not saying much to each other, not addressing us at all, which is great. We don't want them yelling at us. I think we've got here just slightly too late. We did leave Buffelshoek Waterhole briefly, and I think we've got here just slightly too late. Seb, I'm going to move forward, and then we'll get a better view. We just parked here so that we wouldn't block them. Safari cell, I don't think there... Oh, here comes a little elephant, bustling out of the bushes there. Let me park so you can see him, Seb. Safari cell, as far as I'm aware, their spines are not fragile any more than you'd expect them to be. I know that, of course, because we know elephants can bear load. They can be ridden, they can be sort of carriers of things. So no, I don't think they have weak spines at all. That elephant that you were looking at, the one that isn't drinking, that one, yeah, is very heavily pregnant. You can see that. All right, so we're going to wait here. Sydney's got something that might disappear quite quickly.
Yeah, this is one of the very pretty birds. And these birds, they are very much clever because they mostly target the areas whereby there is fires. When doing the fire breaks, you will see they will be hanging around there because they know that some of the animals, when the fire is burning, the insects will be flying and they will be catching for foraging purposes. So this is one of the pretty birds. It has got quite a lot of colors. I'm not too sure how many colors do they have. But the lilac-breasted rollers, if you come here during the summer season, you are going to love them because that is when they advertise themselves for mating purposes. You will see them doing what is called an acrobatic flight, whereby they will go high up, high elevations and roll. And that is where this name, lilac-breasted roller, is coming from. And coming down the surface, they will act as if they're going to hit the ground, and again, they will find their way. That roll is going to be punctuated with an interesting loud raucous sound like that is what they're going to do. Sometimes they don't sound like birds, They sound like very big animals. And if you don't know them, you are going to get confused and think maybe there is a dangerous animal in the area. Oh, that lilac-breasted roll decided to leave me, So we still have got a lot of lilac-breasted rollers in the game reserve, and then we're still going to find them. I think there is some other elephants activities taking place where James is. He's got maybe something to share with us.
Well, the elephants are having a lovely drink at the moment. A little bit of communications now, and that heavily pregnant one is now wandering around the back of the waterhole, going to greet a little youngster, possibly also hers. That's quite sweet. See how he's lifted his trunk to say hello. She's turned to him briefly. Not a particularly friendly greeting, as far as I can tell. If it's a friendly greeting, the trunk will usually go into the mouth of the greeters. But maybe it's just Mum saying, come along, we're done here, let's go and find yet more to eat, as that is our lot as the largest land mammals. We must find stuff to eat all day long. And always the lagging youngsters at the back, and the mother, or one of the females there, just chivying them up a bit, telling them to hurry up. Move it up. Let's get out of here. There's quite a lot of bustling about in the trees behind us. I suspect it is monkeys. Suspect. I don't think suspect is a word. Suspect it is monkeys. Let's move along and have a little look-see. Just right here, as the elephants wander off into the darkness. not the darkness, the bushes is what I meant. Forgot my words today. It's very interesting, can't see a thing. Oh, there, it's an elephant further down, it's not a monkey. The elephants are different from monkeys, they don't look the same at all. Monkeys, of course, have got more hair than elephants, that's how you tell the difference. I'm not sure how many of you knew that. Well, just in case you should also ever mistake an elephant for a monkey, it's the hair you've got to look for. Monkeys a good covering of sort of greyish hair. Elephants very little hair. Otherwise they really are very obviously the same. Eating in a little tambuti grove, and I must say a tambuti grove at this time of the year, oh, it's very pretty indeed. I'll be Rick, it really does depend on what the zoologists are feeling. Sometimes it's 2 species of elephants, sometimes it's 1 and a subspecies. So there are 2 kinds of elephants. They are the forest elephant and the savanna elephant. And sometimes people call them different subspecies, and sometimes people say they are different species entirely. I think at the moment, if I'm not mistaken, they're considered the same species, just different subspecies of each other. But that will probably change in the next 5 minutes. Very difficult to keep up with the zoologists. I think they find it very difficult keeping up with themselves. You know, everybody, they're constantly doing into research, and conferences are held, and angry PhD theses are written about whether or not certain species should be called something or other. One does find it difficult when one is sitting in an environment like we're sitting here watching these elephants. One finds it difficult to imagine that that could possibly be important. The important bit, I guess, is conserving them and trying to find a space for them to survive. Yes, I've no doubt it can, Anna-Marie. I'm pretty sure that tannin can have a deleterious effect on an elephant's stomach, on anything's stomach. I'm sure there are different levels of tannin tolerance. Also, tannin is not one thing. Tannin is a sort of group of chemicals, and I'm sure different tannins will have different effects on different animals. I know that kudu, for example, with mapani leaves, can get themselves into trouble. They can block their stomachs entirely. We don't get mapani trees here. Elephants will eat them, but they'll eat them sparingly, and they'll eat them at certain times of the year. So yes, I'm sure it can affect their digestive systems. I think in an environment like this, where elephants have been part of the natural environment for many hundreds of thousands of years, it would be unusual to find trees that produced a toxin that didn't in some way affect their major predator. And of course, an elephant is a major predator to most of the trees that we have out here, or certainly many of the trees that we have out here. Still eating a bit of grass, that fellow. I'm pretty sure these are just young bulls that are going to catch up with the herd as night falls, just asserting a little bit of independence, you know. As we all did at one stage of our lives, Sebastian. I'm sure you well know when you were a young buck, trying to pretend that you were older than you actually were.
You to grow old when you're young.
Exactly.
And to be younger when you get old.
Exactly. In case you didn't hear that, the universal truth of wanting to be older when you're young and wanting to be younger when you're old. Sorry, I've momentarily been gobsmacked by the sight of a batalier flying over that I'm afraid is going to be impossible to get on camera with any value, because it just whipped over the top of us. Might get him. No, he's turned. He's going home. Same one. Well, it's not only the animals that look good in the sunset, of course, also the mighty Ralph Kirsten, followed by the great H. Causer, and what should we say, a very loud Batman will look fantastic in the golden sunset.
Oh, thanks, James. I'm glad you have been watching us in different tones of light. But, well, careful, that one's quite bad. So anyway, we've bunched up a little bit, everybody, because we're heading back towards camp, actually, because we haven't come right with these tracks, with these leopard tracks. However, what's Herbie pointing at now? Ooh, there's a nice nyala there. Well done, Herbie. Thank you. Now, why we've bunched up a little bit is because there was a report earlier of a hippo that has been seen walking around camp. So I'm not sure what he's up to, but it was obviously this morning when there was a little bit of fog and mist around, and he was obviously moving around a little bit more than what he used to. And also because we're heading back towards camp, because it sounded like Tingana, who has got quite a bad injury. He's limping quite badly, and he's got quite a gash on his ear, I think, and he's also around camp. Now, if you know, injured cats can be a little bit aggressive, so we're just staying together a little bit more as a group, just to be sure, you know, with these potentially dangerous animals. We just want to have our wits about us a little bit more, but we would like to also have a look at them. So we're just trying our luck, and it's about this time when Tingana could also give us a bit of a rasp or a saw or a territorial call. So we're just hoping that by moving back now towards camp nice and slowly, we might just get the timing perfect. And as I say that, it looks like here's an old kill. There's lots of bones lying around here. Let's go and have a look. Oh, looks like that of a buffalo. So that's not as big as the one that we saw a few days ago before I went on leave. Look at this. But it is a very nicely whitewashed buffalo skull. It's quite pretty, that, isn't it? I like it. It is definitely. And quite large, but as I say, not as big as the one that we had at camp. And this would have been from the lions. And there were so many lions, so many buffalo that were killed during the period when there was quite a big drought a few years ago, not very long ago, because they were literally almost falling over and asking the lions to eat them because there wasn't enough food and water around. So shame. There was the buffalo did take a heavy toll during that stage, and you can see now how a lot of the bones still scattered around here. I'm sure the hyenas would have had quite a lot of chewing that they would have done on these, and they've literally been totally stripped. But you can see on a lot of them they do have, you know, just these little cracks in that. That's normally when hyenas crunch down on this, and then you start to get all these little cracks that you would have there. So, because they would have had to be chewing off all the meat off of these as well. So it's always nice to come and have a look at bones like this, especially once they've been really cleaned up. I mean, there's not a single morsel of meat left on here. It's been eaten by the hyenas and then finished off by the ants. Right, we're going to continue on and get a little bit closer to where hopefully we're going to hear Tingana shortly. But I hear that Sydney's off the vehicle.
What am I seeing here? Huh? What is this tree? It is always very, very difficult to recognize the different species of trees during the dry season, because most of them, they don't have leaves at that stage. So this is one of these trees here. This is called a silver cluster leaf. So the name derived from the color of the leaves. Now it's not silver anymore, it's gray now because it is the dry season. So if you can just check here, this tree has got some markings. And these markings, if we go around here and check, you'll find that not all these trees got this marking. Yes, some of them, they've got these markings. When when I am confused or when I'm lost in the bush, this is what I rely on for orientation and navigation. This is what is called a moss. Normally, the moss, it grows by the northern side of the tree. So when it's by the northern side, if I check the back of the tree where the moss is not there, then I know that here I am on the southern side. So this is one of the things as guides we are relying on when we are lost deep in the bushes. Apart from the moss, if you can check these trees, if you can just cut them and check the rings as well. The rings of these trees can also help you to orientate your direction. So if you check the rings, where the rings are much more broader or much thicker, mostly is by the southern side, because that is where the sun is hitting the most. So the northern side of these trees, you find that the rings, they are very thin, and come to the southern side, you're going to find that all the rings by the trees, they're much thicker, because that is where the sun is hitting all the time. But that is determined by your location. If you are by the northern hemisphere, it's going to be the opposite, meaning that the northern side of the northern hemisphere is going to be where you are going to have the thick rings from the trees, and then the southern side you're going to have the thin ones. So those are some of the things that are helping me when I am lost deep in the bushes. So now I am going to carry on and see if we can find some of the cats. The temperature is cooling now, is becoming very favorable for the cats. I was doing a little bit of trekking, and I'm still trekking now, but it seems to be very quiet. And then I hope the last few minutes of the game drives, we are going to see something. I am hoping for the best. Yeah, so now we can carry on this road. This road is going to the eastern side of the reserve. Maybe here is where my luck is this afternoon. Let's see what is going to happen. Yes, I lost you a little bit. The radio was breaking. If you can repeat, I just hear that is from Safari South. I didn't get the question nicely. The question from Safari South, yes, the weaver nest as well, they help us to locate the direction as well, because if you can check this nest, mostly they target the eastern side of the sun. So they check the eastern side is whereby they know they are going to enjoy most of the sun in the mornings. The bush is looking very gray everywhere. Look at this. With the sunset, you see, the bush is looking very beautiful, eh? And the reflection of the sun on this bush is phenomenal. I did pick up a very strong scent of the largest land mammal, the elephant, again. Yes, I didn't get the question nicely, but the name I hear that is from Nina. If you can just again pass me that question. we do have the fever trees in Africa, Nina. It's just that now all the trees that are termed acacias are not acacias anymore. In Africa, it has been discovered that we don't have the acacia trees. We only having what is called vachelia. So all the acacias are now vachelia. So the fever trees, they are part of the acacia family, which is now vacacia. So, yeah, as I'm still looking for the cats here, I am now going to see if maybe Ralph is having something on his side. I am going to try my luck by the eastern side.
Well, everyone, we're still just hoping that in this twilight time we might hear Tingana calling. Now, as you can see, we're in the area of the non-existent Vuyatela Dam, and look at those clouds in the background there as well. They're really starting to now almost look purple. And it's not because they're laden with heavy water like they're going to rain. I think it's just because of the reflection of the sun busy starting to set. So we still are slowly making our way back towards camp, and there you can see the sun starting to go down on that side. And Mr. Herbie, our game tracker, he's headed up just to make sure that at the little waterhole that's in front of the dam cam has not got that hippo that I was talking about a little bit earlier in, that we were going to walk in on top of him. I'm sure if he was in there, I'm sure the viewers would have told us from the dam cam, but you can never be too sure. And Herbie says that he has once before walked up here and there was a hippo wallowing in that little pan there. So he just requested just to head a little bit ahead and make sure that it wasn't in there at the moment. But it's still, I'm hoping we hear Tingana quite soon. Now, Crafty Stash, the animals, there generally will be little water points that management will make available for the animals. Like I'm going to take you up now, Crafty Stash, and just show you these kind of little almost artificial water holes, but the point is because, the animals aren't able to migrate anymore as they would do over massive distances. And in fact, it used to be a whole migration from the sort of this side of the Kruger right up even towards the Okavango Delta and to areas where there were real permanent rivers and that kind of thing. So now that we've got a fence around them and they're not really that able to do that anymore, they will supply just normally with bringing groundwater up just to the surface and make little pans like this available. So they're not going to make massive water holes, but just little pans like this. And Vuyatela Dam is now dry down the bottom, and now we've got this little pan here with the dam cam in front of it. So this now brings a lot of animals here through, and you would see that there now. So you'll be able to see us on two feeds now. We're on the dam cam and we're on Safari Live, and with a beautiful reflection here. It looks like there might even be some fish in the water. Oh, there's a little terrapin, couple of them, their little heads poking up just on the surface of the soil, of the water. There they go. And there's another one over there. There's quite a lot of them. These marsh terrapins. They breed quite quickly, quite prolifically. So, and that's all that's here for the moment. But the leopards come through and they drink here at night. The elephants, I've seen them drinking here as well. And as Herbie says, even the hippos come through here. So, well, that's one of those little spots that definitely now, at this moment, is really going to start pulling a lot of animals because all the other little waterholes are quite dry. Now, we're starting to head back towards camp as that sun's going down because it's not safe to stay out when we're on foot in the dark. So while we make our way slowly, I'm going to head you back to Sydney, who wants to show you something.
Quite a beautiful sunset in Africa. It is happening here by the Juma Game Reserve. That is beautiful, phenomenal. Eh? Look at the skies. Africa is beautiful. So the sunset at this stage is punctuated by the calls from some of the territorial birds. Some of them are starting to make noise now. They are giving that little bit of aggression to warn their predators and to warn their intruders just before they go to sleep. Look at that marula tree right in front of us. It's looking dry, but it's not dry. It is alive. It's just that this is the dry season whereby all the nutrients are hidden under the ground. There is two tissues which are responsible of the movement of both nutrients and water by that marula tree. One is called a xylem, which is responsible to take water from under the ground up to the branches. And when everything is processed up by the branches, that is where you are going to find another tissue called the phloem, which is now going to take all the processed nutrients and hide it under the ground by the roots, which serve as a storage organ during the dry season. So that tree is just faking death now. But some my safari, thank you very much for the compliment to Africa. It is indeed a lovely continent. So the elephants, when they come to that kind of a marula tree, they ring-bark them. And after they have ring-barked the tree, this is what is going to happen. The communication between the top part of the tree and the bottom is going to be cutted. The chances of this marula tree to die are very high because now the nutrients are not going up to feed the branches down from the roots. So sometimes animals such as elephants can also be detrimental to the vegetation. But what can you do? Elephants, for them to survive, they've got to feed on these trees. That is nature. Look at that. Nina, Mu, I did get your question, and it's just that I'm not too sure about the specific tree, but I know that some of the reeds, those are the ones that they're using in order to do those kind of things. And some, they can also do those things from some of the bark from some of the trees. Look at that sky, eh? The one with the reddish purple. Look at that. Oh, listen to those birds sound, eh? Everybody's calling now. So the sunset is calling. Okay, I am going to carry on now and see if we're going to find something by the dam. We are now going to Ralph. Ralph is walking right into the sunset. Maybe from where he is, he's still got a better sighting of such a lovely sunset.
Hello, everyone. Well, we're just walking up here. Now, we were just walking past the dam cam at the little pan next to Botany, and we've been looking at the tracks. Now, I don't want to start an argument, but between Herbie and myself, we're looking at these tracks that have actually walked past here this morning, and we want to contest. We didn't see those cats or which female it was. I know the viewers saying that it was Shudulu, but just from the track, it really does not look like Shudulu's track. It looks like Tandi's track, and the habits of what the cat actually did as well. It's made a kill, and it's dragged it really far. So, I don't know, guys. Are you sure it was Shudulu? I'm not saying you're wrong, but from the track, if we had to take that track now, we would say that we're following Tandi's track. So are you guys sure that it was Shudulu? You guys can let me know, and you can maybe just tell me exactly why you say it was Shudulu, because as I say, from the track and from the habit of what we saw went on there, we're pretty sure that that was Shudulu, but excuse me, Tandi. But we welcome being proven wrong. But as I say, from the track, it's a tiny little track, and it almost looks like Tlalamba's little track, because her tracks are now almost that size as well. And Shudulu, she's almost got a small male size track. And as I say, not just from that, but also then from what she did with the kill, dragging it for so far, and then moving it. We believe that if it was Shudulu, she would have gone straight up a tree. And so the size of the track plus what she did, we're leaning towards Tandi. So you guys prove us wrong. I welcome that. Please do. And that would be great. And nobody commenting just yet, but you guys are going to obviously be looking on your screenshots and so on. Let's see why you said it was Shudulu. Because Herbie and I are both saying, we think you're wrong. But as I say, it's not about having an argument now. It's about just opening up the debate and proving us wrong. Now, looking over here, this is now just, you might think, just some whiteness. Well, a last-minute poo is always good. And this is some of maybe female's scat, leopard, definitely a leopard. And it's one of the last sort of in the digestion, I would say. There's lots of hair in it, but there's also quite a bit of that greenish tinge, which does then give you that feeling that there's lots of blood inside what it's been feeding on. Over there looks like a piece of bone, actually. Let me get another piece of stick and we can just open it up. I don't want to touch it. Once again, there's streptococci, which can go into your from your hands into your mouth and then migrate into your brain and cause a cyst on your brain. And the only way you get it out is through brain surgery. So I'm not going to be touching that with my hands, but that is definitely quite a nice fragment of bone there, and also lots of hair. Look at that, lots of hair in it. So I wonder, it's quite darkish hair. It's not like that light hair that you would get from an impala or from a steenbok. I would say this is probably more so like duiker fur. Look at that, rather dark, eh? I would say duiker or scrub hair. Maybe scrub hair and lots of bone fragments. So that's what I would think, having a look at that. Always nice to dig around inside the scat. You can see from hyena, you can't really make out too much of what they've been eating because they digest almost everything. But with lion and leopard, you can very often see what they have been eating because you can see the color of the hair, you can see a lot of the fragments of bones. You often have nails and teeth and stuff coming through, which you won't have with hyenas. They break all of this down. You have the odd little thing that you might get through with hyena, but you won't have hair coming through like this. They digest bones, teeth, claws, nails, all of that. And it just comes through. When you break up hyena scat like this, it literally just becomes a fine little powder. But anyway, it's quite interesting. Definitely a female-sized scat, and I say that just by this size here, in terms of the diameter there. So definitely a female scat. And we say scat for predators or carnivores. We say feces for omnivores. That would be like even baboons, and sometimes even bush pig. And then we would say dung for your herbivores. So this is from a pure carnivore, a predator. And so there we would definitely say a scat. It's nice and interesting then. Right, James Richard, and I do trust your judgment. You're not so sure, but you say definitely a female. So that's That's interesting, James, because it's nice to know that you're not sure. Not that I want you to be unsure, but I'm glad that we've now opened up the debate. I want you guys to prove to me why it was Shudulu and not Tandi. Because, as I say, from the track, what we can see, and the tracks never lie, but I want to be proven wrong. I'm not saying that it's 100%, but Herbie and I are feeling that that wasn't Shudulu. It was Tandi. We didn't see her, but we've got the evidence. And from the size of the track, we're saying Tandi. Definitely. So, anyway, definitely, maybe, not quite sure. We want you to prove us wrong. All right, everyone. So I think it's about time for us to head back to camp. It's getting to that time when the light is fading. Stars are coming out. It's going to be a wonderful evening. The clouds have moved off a little bit. So we're going to head on back to camp, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
It is a gorgeous, gorgeous evening, and I suspect that, unfortunately, it is the herald of another cold front, which I suspect also is the herald of a continuingly cold winter, which I suspect also is perhaps the herald of a wet summer to come. It's normally how it works. I mean, I say that as if it's some sort of scientific fact. It isn't. It's my impression, which might be entirely false. I did hear on the radio that somebody has heard a leopard calling somewhere around the south central parts of Juma, so we'll head down there with a great speed. Well, a relative speed. Now remember, as we go into the darkness, we do rely heavily on your conversation. You may ask us any questions, as long as you don't ask us what we're going to see during the night, because normally we give you a long list and arrive home without seeing any of those things. But anything else, you're welcome to ask us. Oh, one of those things that we never manage to find at night is what Sydney's found.
This is one of the very, very beautiful birds. You can see, nice and small. If you go to the back, still, you're going to find that that bird has got some false eyes. That is a pale spotted owl. Look, it's trying to avoid me here from where I am by looking at the other side. So owls are one of those interesting birds. And I like a collective noun for all the owls together, which is called a parliament of owls. Interesting, huh? Owls, they've got their own parliament. So owls, they've got a very interesting hearing ability. And they can do something which is called to split seconds different. Here is whereby they can program their ears in such a way that the ear on the right side can copy something different from the ear on the left side at the same time. Like now, I am talking, that owl is hearing me, but is trying again to listen to what he was concentrating about before I got here. So at the same time, they can combine two different channels. So you can see that it's very fast, eh? So I'm very sure that the small birds in this area, they are not aware that this owl is here because it's so very much camouflaged. Normally, small birds, when they hear these kind of birds calling or when they detect them, they come and chase them. They fight them. So they don't trust the owls. They know that owls can easily predate them. Oh, now he decided to leave us at a very high speed. That was a lovely sighting. So it's a sign that the sun has gone down now. It's now the beginning of a nocturnal life. So we are going to be looking for some of the nocturnals. We are lucky so far. Our first nocturnal animal has just flew away. So let's see what we are going to find next. Yeah, that is quite a very, very, very a difficult question to answer because that owl, when he was standing there, was so very much camouflaged, so I couldn't see all the features. So it's very difficult for me to explain if it was a male or a female. So we are still going to carry on now towards the eastern direction of the reserve. Maybe we're going to find other owls, different species, or the same species, and observe nicely and see if they are males or females. Yeah, so now we are going to James. He is also trying to find some interesting animals for us.
Yes, desperately trying to find interesting animals. We're nearing in on Twin Dams, so we might get lucky there. That's a waterhole at the south central parts of the reserve, where apparently Hosana was not too far away from yesterday. Not today, so I'm not sure we're going to see him. Let's just head down there. I'm not sure if we're going to see anything, but we'll do our best. The luck I think I have ridden for the last 2 weeks or so may have finally run out. Alas and alack. Kimberly, my favourite cat is undoubtedly my mother's Burmese, whose name is Zoe. That's not really true. Zoe is vicious and very unkind to me. I think leopards are by far and away my favourite cat. I certainly appreciate all the others, but there's something about leopards, especially experiences on foot with young leopards, that is very, very intriguing. Perhaps they're secretive natures, perhaps they're, I don't know, they're something about their demeanour that I really enjoy. They obviously are nice to look at as well. Cheetahs I enjoy, but not as much as leopards. Lions are okay, I guess. I mean, I do like lions, but not as much as I like leopards or cheetahs. And what else? A big male lion roaring, or a leopard cub. There's nothing cuter, in my opinion, in all the world than a leopard cub. That includes than a lion cub, sorry. That includes leopard cubs. I believe that lion cubs are cuter than leopard cubs. Pushed fairly close to the wire by a baby hippopotamus. But no, my favourite cat, on the whole, is the leopard. Followed closely by Zoe, my mother's Burmese, who I suspect would probably eat a leopard if she could find one. Vicious, vicious animal. Our poor little dog Fenton, who is 3/4 Staffy and 1/4 Bull Terrier, is terrified of Zoe the Burmese. Alrighty. Let's go across to Sydney, find out what his favourite cat is. I'm nearly at the Waterhole.
Yeah, I am not that very far away from the Waterhole now. I am heading there just to go and see if there is some interesting activities taking place. And so far I don't have any updates, and there is no sign, nothing. It's quiet. So I'm just doing some trekking a little bit as well. But I have not yet noticed any track for any cats, not even a hyena. Because you know, these cats and the hyenas, they are always walking not very far away from each other. Hyenas, mostly here in Juma, they are always behind the big cats. Yeah, now I can hear those owls are busy trying to make some noise. Yeah, Anna, I have been a guide since 2007. And I have been guiding every day. So I used to go out with tourists every day doing activities such as the bush walks and the game drives, as well as the 4x4 trails. So I've been doing this job for quite a long time now. So it's just that the environment where I come from is completely different from here. Animals such as leopards, where I come from, were very difficult to find. Here, yes, they are a little bit difficult. Sightings are very good. They are not that very shy. It's interesting to meet these cats. Yeah, it is. Let me just switch off my engine and try to listen to the bush. Maybe I'm gonna hear something happening. So now we are going to James and see if maybe he's got a sighting.
We do. We've got a leopard here. Can't tell who it is. Thinking it's Tundi. Just briefly in the bushes. Yeah, that's a angry lady. Still got her there.
Kind of.
She was heading towards us, was she?
Yes, but now I think she's behind those bushes there.
It's a very difficult area to get into, everyone. There she is. She's right here, in front of us. Just going to tell this person who's chasing, or not chasing, station, she's coming back across towards Tundams Road. Let's just try and see who we're looking at here. Yeah, I'm 90% sure that is Tandy. Not yet, I'm live, I'll get back to you now. Alright, let's see if we can get her on the road there. Are you all agreeing with me that is Tundi from the very brief look we had at her? Here she comes. There she is. Yes, quite, Patrick. Nothing like a last-minute leopard. She's just coming through here. Watch out there, sorry, Seb. She's going to come out here. With any luck. Here she is. Yes, that's our angry kitty. Angry little girl. She's not so angry tonight. We'll just be very careful. Not say too much as she walks past. There she goes. That's my head. What a lovely leopard sighting. This is just a perfect leopard sighting because she's behaving, of course, exactly like a leopard should. Yeah, Justin, this cat is doing very well, and you know, it's so interesting. Her character, compared with the likes of Tingana, is so much more. I hate using the term aggressive, but she is quite aggressive. She doesn't sort of shy away from conflict. She's just flicking her tail to try and make sure that any birds there are don't give her away. She's looking a bit skinny. Could use a meal. I wonder if she'll go. I suspect she might go down into that little drainage system. Might be a little difficult for us to get there, but we'll do our best, obviously. Just keep an eye there. Can't see her. Everybody on that other vehicle's looking sort of down the way. See if we can get another look. There's quite a steep bank there, so I'm not sure that she'll necessarily take that plunge.
She's at the base, but actually going down now.
Down?
Yeah.
Alright, she's gone down into the... Sorry, Meg, what was that last comment? Yes. Mrs. I know you like how feisty she is. I do too, you know. She's a proper wild leopard. There's no doubts about that. You see her there? There she is. She's right at the base there. I think I can see her there. Charlotte, have you still got a view there? Just go right a bit from there. No, I don't think it is her that I saw. Charlotte, have you got a view? Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry, Warren. It was Warren, not Charles. All right, we'll try and get another go while we go across and find out what Sydney's looking for.
Yeah, I am now heading to Treehouse Dam and see if maybe we can find Tingana. So I'm going to try a Tingana by the Treehouse Dam now, as James already got Tandy on the other side. So my alternative is Tingana, a beautiful male. But so far I don't have any sign of Tingana. Maybe when I got to the area around Treehouse Dam, I might manage to get some of the tracks there which can lead us to something interesting this evening. Yeah, I thank you very much to all those who are wishing me all the best with regards to the Tingana sighting. I am going to try. It will be my first sighting on Tingana during the evening. I saw Tingana during the daytime and I have not yet met Tingana at night. If I am lucky with Tingana, this is going to be my first evening with Tingana. Yeah, there's still no tracks yet. Maybe he has been hiding away from the mist this morning, because there's no much activities, no much tracks. I got a very interesting story about a leopard. Some time ago I was on a guided walk and I was not too sure if there was a leopard in the area. Off we went. On our way back, I heard something making noise and I went closer just to investigate. I was not even thinking that it's a cat. I just wanted to see what was going on there. When I got there, I found that it is a leopard and I was charged. And all my tourists were very, very, very much nervous, because I left them with my backup. And then I said, stand here, let me go just and check what is going on there. When I got there, I found that it was a leopard. He was not doing anything. I think he was just giving us a warning. Maybe he thought that we could see him where we were and we were not aware of his presence. That is the day I got nervous a little bit. But now here by the Juma Game Reserve, there's quite a lot of leopard activities. I will get used to them. So now James is still on the other side looking for Tandy.
Yeah, I'm afraid we haven't had any luck. She crossed into that little riverbed and doesn't seem to have come across. There are 3 or 4 different people looking, or 3 of us looking for her. Naturally, there are more sticks that you've had hot breakfast around here, so it will make a little bit of a noise as we turn around. Let's drive around the spot here. I wonder if she hasn't killed something a little bit further south and is now going to fetch her daughter, Kalamba, now 9 months old, the mischievous one. I'm not sure. This is more her traditional territory, you see. Kemal, we saw Kalamba 2 days ago. 3 days ago. Well, when was the TV show? It was a rabbit, at least a scrub hare. So we saw her on Sunday morning. Sunday morning we saw her. We looked for her on Sunday afternoon, didn't find her. Found her tracks all over the place on Monday, but we haven't seen her for a little while. She does come towards a little pan over here from time to time. She may have gone down to ground in the bushes over there. Just checking I have my radio up. Make sure that nobody else isn't in fact watching her as we look. Yeah, I don't think that we're going to see her again, I'm afraid, but we're going to try. Certainly going to do our level best. There's a nightjar on the road. Sure, what do you mean? Why don't leopards move around? What do you mean? Why are they in the similar areas? How do we know it's always Tundi kind of thing? Well, they're just very territorial, sure. It's how they've evolved to live. They have a demarcated area that they defend fairly aggressively against conspecifics, if you like. Those territories do shift. Their sizes don't vary a great deal, but they do live in defined territories. And without those territories, well, I guess the whole system would kind of break down. So that's why they don't move around. That's why we're always seeing Tundi. Well, not always, but that's why she's the most common female that we'll see. And the possibility for us seeing territorial females extends to Tundi, her daughter Guchava, Shidulu from the west, and possibly a female from the north. But that's basically it, because that's what Djuma covers. You know, Djuma covers 1,200 hectares or so, which is about 12 square kilometers, which is about the size of 2 female leopard territories. If I'm not mistaken. I think I'm not mistaken. I think we're now into the realms of desperate hope. So let's turn around, go back the way we came, and head off to Sydney.
Yeah, I've got my spotlight on now, just to try and see if there's some shining eyes deep in these bushes. I am heading to Tree House Dam, where maybe I'm hoping maybe activities are taking place there by this time of the night. So if I see any eyes shining there, I am going to check. Maybe it's one of the animals I am looking for this evening. So I'm hoping to see Tingana. Yeah, not much is happening. I saw some impalas. They were very comfortable feeding there. But the thing is, when it comes to the leopards, impalas can be stationary feeding and leopards can be around, because it's quite a very, very clever cat. That cat is very much skilled when it comes to the hunting activities. Yesterday I saw that Tundi went closer to the impalas up to 110, 120 meters and still live without the impalas aware of her presence. So the fact that the impalas were not irritated when we got past there, it does not necessarily mean that the leopards are not around. I am not very far away from the dam now. Come again, I didn't copy that question. I just got that the question is from Valley. Yes, the question is from Valley, who names all these leopards? Valley, that is quite a very difficult question to me. I will have to investigate and come back to you. I'm not too sure where these names are coming from. I am right at the dam now. And here it seems to be very, very quiet. I am not seeing any eyes shining. What I'm seeing there now is so what I'm seeing there now is just a bed. There's just two beds there, the plovers. So it is very, very much quiet, eh? So the blacksmith plovers are those birds that mostly concentrate near the waterholes. So I can just see two of them. They're just moving around there. It's one of the ground dwellers. So they nest somewhere not very far away from the waterhole. That is where they're laying their eggs and hide them there. Their eggs are very much camouflaged. It's very difficult to identify them because they always match the surrounding. And if there is anything moving around this dam, they will be the first one to tell me. So these birds are very much inquisitive and they can be very much aggressive if there is activities taking place close to their nest. Yeah, while I'm still looking for Tingana, I am now going to see if James has got some sightings with regards to Thandi on his side.
We have had a brief sight of her again. She's just walking through this very thick area. Can't see in front of me. May hit a log. Not sure. I also don't want to give her a fright. There are 3 vehicles now following her at night, so if we don't get a nice view of her here now, I think what we're going to do is can this malarkey, you see, and decide that we had a nice view and we'll find her in the day. We've got her. Yeah? I think it's shadows playing tricks. She's just over here in front of us somewhere. You see her anywhere? Yeah. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm actually not prepared to follow her through here. It's too thick. She's on the hunt. She's looking hungry. There are 2 other cars. So we're going to pull out of here, I'm afraid. All right, Sydney is going from Waterhole to Waterhole. Very good plan. He's now at the next one.
Yeah, I am still here around the tree house dam, and there is no much activities taking place here. It is still very quiet, and I hope maybe on our way up here we might find something, because this is the best time now for these animals to move around. No fresh tracks yet, nothing, eh? And this area, I can see on the ground that the area has not been disturbed too much. Maybe this Tingana is watching me. I didn't copy that question very nicely. I just heard that the owls, the wings. Yeah, that is one of those questions which has to be investigated. I am not too sure if the owls, the wings are whole or not. So, but I will go and double check and see if they are. And if they are not, I will tell you tomorrow. Yeah, I've got a very beautiful sighting of the two scrub hares. They just ran off the road now. They just got disappeared somewhere here. They were right on the road. Here is one of them. Look at those ears. Very, very beautiful ears. It's two of them. So these animals are very much clever, and how they run, they always make sure they confuse the predators, because they run on zigzag. They don't go straight. And they've got a bushy tail. Sometimes they will lift up that tail, and when the tail is up, the bright fluffy hairs shows, and they know that their predator is going to mark that. And when they are by the thick bushes, or sometimes they decide to sit. When they sit down, then they match the surrounding. So it's always very difficult for the predators to reallocate them. So it's one of the methods they're using in order to avoid the detection by their predators. Look at the ears, always moving, So the hind legs are always way much bigger than the front legs. See how this animal is sitting is exactly how high the front legs are. You see, they've got a very big pupil. So that pupil, it gives them a better visual, so they can be able to see something coming from the side. Now, they've got a very interesting wide vision, because the pupil is a little bit larger than the sock. Beautiful, So now we are going to carry on and see if we can find something interesting. Yeah, the scrub hair, I didn't want to shine the spotlight by the eyes. That's why I was shining on the ground, so that I don't disturb the eyesight of that scrub hair. They always get blinded if you shine the spotlight, or if you use the headlights right straight onto the eyes. So shining the lights and the spotlights, it can be very detrimental to their eyes. Yeah, there is a question from Isabella about the lions eating the scrub hairs. Lions, they do eat the scrub hairs, but they don't go out for hunting the scrub hairs. They go out hunting something else, and if a scrub hair is found, it can just become an easy meal. But you can see that the scrub hair is nothing compared to the size of the pride of the lions. So they just have a quick meal. Let's see, apart from the scrub hair, maybe we might find something in this area. Yeah, James is also trying to find some of the interesting activities on his side. So let's go to him so that he can show us what he's got.
Yes, I've got my spotlight, which is a very nice orange color. You can't see that, of course, because you're looking at me in black and white. But doesn't it look pretty? No, don't change. It looks lovely like it is. Very nice. That's all I've got that's interesting. In terms of activity, I'm conducting the orchestra with my beam of light, which has just spotted a creature, possibly something that was trying to hide from us. No. May have been a bush baby. I'm not sure. Haven't seen a bush baby for yonks. Tim Tom, a baboon can be dangerous. Yes, absolutely, it is possible. Normally in the wild they are not, however. So if we were to come across them on foot, they would run away from us. They may watch us from a distance, but they're not dangerous. It is when human beings start to feed baboons or start to leave their belongings out so that baboons can get at them that they become dangerous. And certainly around some camps in the Kruger National Park, in fact I think they've pretty much solved that problem, but at fairly lethal means. I don't think they were particularly sensitive about it. A long time ago, not recently. But certainly around the Cape, the baboons are very dangerous, because they've learned not to fear people. And it starts with people being careless. Mostly it starts with people feeding them. And no matter how hard you try to tell people don't feed the wildlife, you can guarantee that on a daily basis people are flinging food out at the baboons and then taking photographs of them. And that's basically what causes the issue. But in the wild, baboons are not dangerous to human beings at all, even though they could literally tear us limb from limb if they wanted to. It's like chimpanzees. Chimpanzees in the wild are also considered fairly, well, not innocuous, but they're not dangerous to human beings if you find one in the wild normally. But as soon as they become familiar with human beings and they become familiar with how human beings are, or how weak we are, it's very easy for them to figure out that should they become angry with us, they can do some serious damage. So as with most animals, in fact, there's very little danger until they lose their fear of us. And that normally comes with us feeding them and interacting with them. Same would happen with a leopard, same will happen with a lion, same will happen, that's why these people get nailed when they go to these sort of what they call rehabilitation camps, which are often not much more than glorified zoos, in fact not very glorified. All right everyone, that is it from this edition of Safari Live, Sunset Safari. We will see you tomorrow morning at 06:30 to 08:30, still doing drone tests from 05:30 to 06:30. Thank you very much for your questions, your comments. Nobody insulted me today, for which I'm very grateful. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.